The Odyssey quivered slightly as Drive, Elara Hayes adjusted the sensors, circling in the research bay with a mix of nervous excitement and focus. Around the holographic console, the space buzzed with anticipation, the air alive with the soft hum of machinery and the faint scent of ozone. The ambient lights cast a bluish tint across the assembled faces, highlighting the eagerness in their eyes as they awaited the historic moment. Drive, Hayes, an astrophysicist with a penchant for curiosity, felt a thrill she hadn't experienced since her student days. Today was the culmination of years of research, a chance to unlock the mysteries of the signals they had detected from the distant galaxy. "Are we ready to initiate contact?" Elara asked, her voice steady despite the nervous energy thrumming through her veins. Before anyone could respond, a sudden surge of data crackled through the console. The lights flickered, then dimmed, shadows lurking in corners of the room. A series of warning alarms beeped erratically, creating an unsettling backdrop. Commander Victor Lang stepped forward, his brow furrowed beneath cropped silver hair. As the military liaison, tall, solid, and resolute, he carried an air of authority. "I doubt this is a simple data spike," he remarked, looking around. "It could be a precursor to something more sinister." The room's temperature seemed to drop as the team exchanged wary glances. "Drive?" Hayes held up a hand, trying to rein in panic and steer the conversation. "The galaxies don't send greetings as traps, Commander. We have no evidence to support the idea of hostility." Yet Lang was unswayed. "Consider the implications for Earth if we're wrong, Drive. Hayes. This isn't about curiosity, it's potentially about our survival." His words hung heavily between them, stirring an undercurrent of fear and uncertainty. Elara felt a tinge of distrust flare within the minds of her colleagues. She looked at the faces of her crew, people she trusted, who trusted her, to gauge their reactions. Gary, their young communications expert, spoke up with a wavering voice. "We should proceed with caution. Maybe start smaller and see what happens." Elara nodded, understanding the balance needed between caution and exploration. "Absolutely, we'll take precautions. But let's not abandon the chance to learn from this. Our mission is worth the risk." The tension remained, yet a consensus formed around her resolute belief in science and discovery. The room settled into a wary agreement, the gentle hum of the spacecraft again the only sound in the cabin. But beneath the surface, doubt lingered like an uninvited shadow, ready to step forward at the smallest provocation. The faint vibrations of the ship under her feet soothed Drive, Elara Hayes as she stood at the helm, her gaze shifting between the control panels and the swirling expanse of space outside the observation window. A cascade of stars stretched endlessly, their twinkling light comforting and infinite. The cabin behind her was filled with subdued but determined chatter. The team, invigorated by a renewed sense of purpose, was focused on deciphering the alien signal. Fingers tapped rhythmically on keyboards, translating binary sequences into potential meanings, amidst the soft clatter of tech instruments. The tranquility shattered as an alert blared, piercing the air with its shrill urgency. The screen revealed streams of red data, numerous meteor clusters on a collision course with the Odyssey. The familiar tang of metal and electronic oils heightened the tension in the cabin. Hull integrity might not withstand a direct hit, Victor Lang warned, his voice calm but laced with urgency. He was already reaching for the manual navigation controls. Elara's heart rate quickened, blood pumping with adrenaline. She and Lang exchanged a look of mutual understanding. It was time to act. "Everybody focus," she instructed, asserting her control over the mounting panic. Cooperation was key as the crew worked in tandem. Gary deftly adjusted the communication signals to minimize interference, while Drive Chen, the navigation officer, began calculating evasive maneuvers. In those tense moments, Elara's mind flickered with memories of past challenges, her father's stories playing like an old film of perseverance against unlikely odds. "Let me tell you all," she ventured, raising her voice to cut through the tense atmosphere, "about how my family faced seemingly impossible storms yet survived them by sticking together." Her voice carried warmth, the words weaving a fabric of solidarity. She painted vivid memories of struggles and triumphs, building bridges of trust and empathy among the crew members. "If my ancestors taught me anything, it's that fear doesn't dictate our fate, our courage does. We're in this together," she concluded, locking eyes with Lang, who nodded his approval. As the meteors glided past, leaving only minor bruises on the Odyssey's surface, Elara's tale lingered in the air, a binding thread of resolve. The storm had passed, quietly knitting the crew closer and strengthening Elara's leadership, reaffirming their commitment to the mission and to each other. Deep within the Odyssey, the thrum of the engines pulsed like a heartbeat through the corridors. Drive Elara Hayes stood in the communications hub, an expansive room filled with monitors displaying streams of binary code and spectral data. The light of the holoscreens bathed her face in blues and greens as she scrutinized the newly discovered encrypted message. "Drive Hayes?" called out Gary, leaning over his own monitor. "I think I've found something significant here." She moved quickly to his workstation, her breath shallow with anticipation. Her eyes darted across the code, parsing the syntax. "It's a message," she uttered, realization sparking in her voice. "They're asking for knowledge exchange." Gary's eyebrows knit together in skepticism. "Why would they need our knowledge?" "It's a sign of diplomacy, a gesture," she explained, but was interrupted by the entrance of Commander Lang. His presence, authoritative and skeptical, cast a cold draft over the moment. "Diplomacy or deception? You're taking a risk assuming goodwill," Lang countered, watching the screen with uneasy eyes. Elara turned to face him, reading the suspicion etched into the hard lines of his face. "Rational inquiry doesn't equate to naive trust. This isn't warfare, Victor, it's an invitation." His lips thinned as he considered her words. "And what if they're not as benevolent as we hope?" She struggled to find words, studying Lang through a lens of compassion. "You know, I grew up seeing suspicion close opportunities," she began quietly, her voice intent. "My father always preached fear of the other, and it wasn't until I moved past that, did I truly begin to discover the world." Her gaze softened, searching his eyes for a hint of comprehension. "Every risk I've taken brought me closer to understanding, healing old wounds. I appreciate your story, but I'm tasked with everyone's safety," Lang replied, yet beneath his gruffness lay a note of reflection, the edges of his soldier's facade cracking ever so slightly. The hum of data filled the void between them. "Can you trust me and the crew to navigate this path?" she implored. Lang hesitated, battled between duty and understanding. Their eyes locked in silent agreement, but uncertainty still tugged at his conscience. The decision lingered, suspended in the air, echoing the delicate balance of scientific pursuit and fear of the unknown. The control room of the Odyssey had descended into darkness, the usual rhythmic beep of monitors silenced. Panic threaded through the corridor as crew members scrambled to their stations, faces obscured by shadows. The air, filled with a slight chill, lashed across their skin, amplifying the tension. "Drive." Elara Hayes, feeling the icy grip of unease in her chest, took a moment to center herself amidst the chaos. She swiftly navigated through clusters of crew, ducking under wires and draping her fingers reassuringly along the cold, metal walls for guidance. In the commotion, Commander Lang's voice boomed, sharp and commanding. "We have to implement protocol, abort the mission if necessary," he stated, galvanizing his authority with practiced precision. Elara hadn't time for cautious compliance. This was her moment. The mission's integrity depended on action, not retreat. She caught the eye of a few steadfast colleagues, those who felt as fervently as she did about the mission's pursuit. "Meet me at engineering," she murmured to Gary and Drive Chen, glancing around to ensure they remained unnoticed. With stealth more in place for covert operatives than scientists, they gathered in an auxiliary room stashed with apparatus and screens firing dimly in emergency power mode. The air was thick with the smell of charred circuits. Gary, interface with the mainframe. Drive Chen, help me stabilize these nodes. We need to reset the power matrices without drawing attention, Elara instructed, the idea burning bright in her mind like starlight. Amidst mechanical clinks and the sporadic fizz of electricity, they worked in unison, breaths synchronizing with their effort. Time stretched unbearably in the intimate glow of failing emergency lights. Each sequence unlocked was another step back to operational capacity. Elara's hands danced expertly across the control panel, deciphering a cryptic pattern she stumbled upon amid internal logs, a hidden code, layered and complex. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could this key restore their communication? "It's coded into the ship's architecture," she whispered, mostly to herself. Excitement flickered through her as pieces fell into place. The sudden hum of systems restarting pulsed through the ship. Lights blinked back across the Odyssey, power surging triumphantly through cables and circuits. In the background rose the familiar din of bewildered crew returning to their posts, and in front of them shone the potential pathway they'd unlocked, all while Lang's authoritarian grip faltered. Elara felt the surge of hope, understanding that contact lay within their grasp. The revived lights of the Odyssey cast a warm glow across the control room, accentuating the sense of urgency and shared purpose that electrified the air. On the main console, the encrypted alien message unraveled further, revealing layers of rich, urgent prose. Drive Elara Hayes, heart-pounding with revelation, studied the decrypted text, each word firming her resolve. "It's not conquest," she announced to the gathered crew, her voice carrying a clarity underscored with gravity, but a plea for help. "They're warning us of a cosmic event that threatens their existence, and possibly ours." A hushed murmur rippled through the team, the gravity of this message settling like dust across their brows. Gary, sitting at his station, looked up with wide eyes, half in awe, half in worry. "They want an alliance." Elara nodded, her gaze sweeping over those who had placed their trust in her leadership. The enormity of their next steps loomed large. "We have the opportunity to prevent unimaginable disaster, not only for them but potentially for Earth as well." Commander Lang stood stiffer than usual, his caution intertwined with his sense of duty. "We can't be sure of their intentions, Elara. Nor can we ignore a call for help when evidence stands before us, Victor. This is a matter of survival, needing both courage and cooperation," she countered, the determination in her tone unwavering. The room seemed to hold its breath, all eyes fixed on Lang, whose decision would steer their course. The Admiral's soldier's instinct warred visibly with the humanitarian impulse Elara awakened. Elara leaned forward, her voice driving home the implications. "We cannot lose this chance to save millions. This is what our mission exists for, what our knowledge and innovation have prepared us for." The silence stretched, a charged moment where the vastness of space seemed to echo their isolated dilemma. It was Gary who broke the pause, uttering firmly, "I'm with Drive Hayes." His words sparked a chain reaction of assent from others in the room, the quiet murmurs turning into a chorus of shared resolve. Together they presented not just the path forward, but a united front that challenged Lang's initial directive. Reluctantly, Lang's grip on control relaxed, his features softening slightly in concession to the collective will and reason. A ring of confidence sealed their circle, a creative spirit born anew under galaxies that stretched beyond imagining, reminding each of them of the shared destiny here and now. The heartbeat-like thrum of the Odyssey's engines pulsed through the control room, now the nerve center for an intense standoff. Elara Hayes, her gaze fixed on Commander Lang, tightened her resolve in this defining moment. The luminescent glow from the control panels painted sweeping arcs of shadow and light across their determined faces. "Look at this," Elara demanded, pointing to the data streaming across the screens, her voice resonating like a bell. "The imminent event, a massive stellar eruption, endangers both their world and ours. We've verified it all." Lang, standing with arms folded, tall and unyielding, remained silent, tension radiating from him like a physical force. But in his eyes flickered the turmoil of duty clashing with nascent understanding. "I understand your fear, Victor," Elara continued, her tone softening as she attempted to bridge the chasm between responsibility and risk. "I share it. But fear cannot be our compass, it must be hope." The blaring of the ship's alarms shrieked into the tension, a stark reminder of the ever-pressing cosmic threat. Red lights flashed, mirroring the urgency pounding in Elara's chest. Lang's stern facade faltered slightly, the pervasive proof before him undeniable. Elara pressed on with fervor, her passion saturating every word. "I reached for the stars driven by one thing, bridging worlds, because a future shared is a future saved." The sincerity in her voice cut through the tension, her vulnerability reaching Lang on a profound level. The ghosts of his own past, those earliest aspirations untarnished by the trials of command, flickered briefly in his eyes, softening his stance. Taking a step forward, Elara closed the emotional distance, offering not just evidence but connection. Two civilizations reaching out in trust, it's how we redefine our legacy. Lang's features shifted, elements of rigidity surrendering to a resolution marked by bruised wisdom. The resigned nod he gave signaled the breach of his internal conflict, a weighted acknowledgement of the importance of connection over isolation. With this unspoken agreement, the room shifted into renewed motion, crew members returning to tasks with heads held resolute, hearts united towards staving off the impending doom. Victory felt Pyrrhic at that moment, as responsibilities exchanged hands. Yet, in the confluence of determination and shared experience, Elara and Lang stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to channel unity into salvation. With the Odyssey's systems restored to full function, Elara Hayes and Commander Lang stood side by side on the observation deck, their reflections cast against the backdrop of endless stars and sweeping galaxies. The ship hummed with life, crew members at stations radiating focused serenity. Before them, the alien message morphed into visual data on the screen, a shimmering tapestry of potential alliances and shared futures. Elara, exhaling a long-held breath, began composing the ship's response, a beacon of common cause sent across the vast expanse of space. "Preparing to transmit," advised Gary, his fingers a blur over the integration controls. The hushed anticipation settled like morning mist over the tech instruments, their subtle pulses filling the room like heartbeats. Elara's voice, steady and calm, guided the recorded message, a synthesis of language and visuals meant to bridge worlds. "To our partners facing the void, we extend our hand in unity. Let us face this cosmic tide together, for in strength and fellowship, both our civilizations may survive." The Odyssey broadcast Earth's goodwill into the cosmos, an arc of vibrant blue encapsulating their hopes aimed toward the mystery of the unknown. The transmission symbolized more than the message, it embodied their commitment to peace and understanding, a rumination on human potential. As the signal dissipated into the dark vastness, the tension of weeks trickled away, leaving in its wake the palpable silence of success and relief. Standing quietly with Lang, Elara reflected on the journey, a voyage marked not just by scientific discovery but by human growth. The stars weaved stories of both peril and possibility, their twinkling reminding Elara of the fragility and beauty of their endeavor. In an uncharacteristic but genuine gesture, Lang placed a hand on her shoulder. "We did it, Elara," he acknowledged. The words, simple yet profound, carried the weight of a new era. She nodded, absorbing the warmth of unity. "We did. We found our courage." The Odyssey continued its sail through the cosmic ocean, its mission transformed from conflict prevention to cultural exchange. As the stars shimmered through the viewports, Elara understood deeply that their courage had indeed bridged the chasm of fear and unknown. In their wake lay the opportunity seeded not just for survival, but for growth and shared wisdom, linking not only minds but hearts across worlds previously separated by light years yet drawn together by shared dreams.